alcohol's reputation is crumbling.
Yeah.
It really is. Generation Z has drunk or is drinking so much less than previous generations. There was actually a study from 2020, just as the pandemic started, that found that the portion of college-age Americans who are completely alcohol-free had risen from 20% to 28% in just a decade.
Wow.
And during the pandemic, Generation Z Australians, my native country is Australia, but they did a study out of Australia, Generation Z Australians were most likely to have decreased their alcohol consumption, with 44% reporting they were drinking less, which was more than double the rate for any other generation. Okay, so generation appear to be more cautious than the older generations, both in terms of their health and also how their peers perceive them. Now, having said that, overall, our generation, I mean, I'm 50, we drank so much more during the pandemic. In fact, there was a 27% increase in alcohol-related deaths stemming from the pandemic because we were all locked at home, we were all isolated, and they had this ridiculous law or rule, in my view, ridiculous, that liquor stores were considered essential services. I mean, I saw all these businesses shut down and liquor stores were allowed to be open. And yet this alcohol is so destructive to society. You don't need to get a DUI or wake up in a ditch or be arrested in order for alcohol to severely compromise your life. And yet society deemed it an essential service during those lockdowns, which seems crazy to me. But yes, alcohol's reputation is crumbling. There's never been more alcohol-free companies on the market. I'm actually an investor in a alcohol-free company called Groovy, Gruvi. They're out of Denver, Colorado. They're kind of like a more modest, smaller version of like Athletic Brewing. They do a lot of great alcohol-free beers and wines and things like that. And people are now increasingly becoming aware about the detrimental effects of even modest amounts of drinking, especially your listeners who are entrepreneurs, executives, and high achievers who realize that they've been holding themselves back in their wealth creation because of their seemingly modest drinking habits.
Yep, that's it. And by the way, I saw a chart here recently that basically showed baby boomers were at the highest percentage of alcohol drinkers of any generation. Then you had a huge drop off to Generation X. You had an even bigger drop off to millennials. And then you had the biggest drop off to Gen Z. So the trend for sure is going down, and it is becoming much more normal amongst most of the people alive to not drink.
If you're a high achiever, if you consider yourself a high achiever, any amount of alcohol is compromising your efforts in that regard. And I always say to my clients, in order to create more wealth, financial wealth, better life for yourself, you don't need to put your foot on the gas harder. You just need to take your foot off the brake. And in this analogy, the brake is alcohol. Your foot on the brake, it represents alcohol, because one or two seemingly innocent drinks a night, like I said, compromises your sleep, leads to irritation, frustration, expectation instead of appreciation, poor strategic choices, not as much energy, not as much stamina throughout the day in your strategic thinking. But most entrepreneurs are listening to your wonderful podcast, Justin, or they're going to conferences and they're digesting audio books and reading books, trying to get an edge, trying to figure out how to invest like you, Justin, how to grow their business. And they're doing it with their foot simultaneously on the brake by drinking 2 or 3 drinks a night. So stop going harder on the accelerator and just ease up on the brake in this analogy, alcohol, and you will start to just glide. You will start to make better decisions, make more money, create generational impact in your family, be a great role model. All of these things come to you when you choose to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, not being sober, not needing to quit, not surrendering to a higher power, not needing to go to an AA meeting. You get to live this style of life.
Yeah, that's very compelling. You know, I just interviewed Alan Dibb, who's also from Australia, right before our show. And his big thing is, you have all these entrepreneurs that are trying to add more to get a better return, whether it be in their business or their body, their health, whatever. And he said the one thing that most people don't do is subtract. And he said the best way to get ahead is usually to subtract something that you're doing so that you can be more optimal where you are. And this would be a perfect example on a health standpoint where it's like, hey, we could be healthier by taking more peptides or drinking more water or getting our labs done, or we could subtract and just stop drinking.
Yes.
And watch the labs clean up and watch the hydration increase, etc.
Tony Robbins says complexity is the enemy of execution. And when we're drinking, we're creating unnecessary complexity in our life. The complexity of a strained marriage, the complexity of not operating at a 9 out of 10 the following day in our business, and therefore making compromised choices. So you're right, and Alan Dibb is correct. Extraction. I mean, a lot of the world's productivity experts say when you've got some kind of project to do, first of all, put it through the automate, delegate, or eliminate stress test, right? Like, if I don't want to do this thing, can I automate it? Can I delegate it? Or can I eliminate it? I would suggest with alcohol, rather than delegating it and automating it, I would just damn well eliminate it, because then you're just flying on the highway of life.